Big Sky Sounds. I'm Ann Harrigan, Music Director of the Billings Symphony, and I'm here with our guest artist, Zlatomir Fung. Welcome, Zlatomir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to meet you. We just met a day ago, but I've known about you for a long, long time, and it's a real thrill to have you here in Billings. In fact, we had a young musician from Helena who found out that you were going to be in Montana, and I'm so excited that he's going to play for you today.
That's amazing. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's been a fantastic day so far being here in Billings. And we had our first rehearsal, and just getting a sense of the community and the beautiful nature here is really wonderful.
Now, this is your first time in Montana.
Yes, it is.
Good. I hope you get a chance to get out and see a little bit. I know it'd be great you'll have to come back and spend more time.
Yes.
Check out Tibbet Rise and all that. So this is our pre-concert talk, as well as talking to our community, getting to know you a little bit. I see you have your friend with you. Tell us about your cello.
Sure. So the cello that I perform on is a really special instrument. It was made circa 1730 in Venice, Italy, by Domenico Montagnana, who was one of the foremost makers of stringed instruments in Italy at that time. And it's a very rare and unique instrument, and I'm very lucky because it's actually loaned to me for my use. I don't own it personally.
Exactly, yes. That's pretty common, I think, with young artists of your stature, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
So you sleep with it and, never leaves your sight, right?
It's usually in the same room, but it has its own space.
How long has the cello been loaned to you?
I've been playing on this instrument for nearly a year, and nice. I hope to be able to play on it for many more years to come.
Now, Zlatomir, you are now on the faculty at Juilliard Conservatory in New York, but you also studied there. Tell us a little bit about yourself growing up and what inspired you to play the cello.
Sure. So I began to play the cello when I was 3 years old. At the time,
3 years old.
Yeah, it was. I know it's actually. I think it's almost a little bit early to start because at that age, I remember my first year playing. Basically, all the lessons were just trying to get me to sit still. It's very, very difficult to sit still at that age. And at the time, my family was living in Corvallis, Oregon, and I had a teacher there who specialized in working with young children. And I studied with her for almost 7 years before my family then relocated to the East Coast near Boston. And once I was there, I started becoming more serious about playing, and then when I was a teenager, I decided I wanted to be a professional, which led to me studying it at Juilliard, and here I am.
Here you are. So did you study in the pre-college then at Juilliard?
I didn't, actually. I studied in the pre-college at New England Conservatory in Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite a trajectory. It's pretty exciting, and you've really just flown through everything, and there's something very unique about your playing, I find, that I find very special. You can just tell your intellect and your thoughtfulness about the way you play really speaks to me, and I think it's a good choice for the piece that we both chose together, which is the Tchaikovsky Rococo Variations, which I think is very different from any other piece written for the cello and orchestra. Tell me how you feel about the Rococo.
Yeah, so this piece, the Rococo Variations by Tchaikovsky, it's actually one of the works for cello and orchestra that's closest to my heart because it's one of the first that I learned. I think
wonderful.
I was around 11 or 12 when I first started learning it, and it's the kind of piece that it brims with joy, and I think it's quite special because the relationship between the cello and the orchestra is one where the orchestra is sort of supporting the cello in all its virtuosic kind of pursuits throughout the piece. There's a charming original theme which Tchaikovsky wrote, which is very, very beautiful, and then a set of 7 variations on it, each of which sort of provides a different perspective on this theme. Some of them are very lyrical, others are just playful and funny and virtuosic, and I think it's a really, really great showcase of the capabilities of the cello as an instrument and all the different kinds of sounds you can make with it.
Without a doubt. And Tchaikovsky, as you know, really looked forward to looking back. He loved Mozart. He wrote a piece called Mozartiana Suite. Right. And this is the Rococo, which is, of course, a the decorative era of the Baroque. And so not having access to CDs or Spotify at the time, he had to probably rely on his imagination of what would it have been like. So this is his take on it. So very neoclassical and a different Tchaikovsky than we hear with like the Fifth Symphony, which we'll hear later in the year.
Right.
You know. One of the things I think it provides a lot of opportunity for those listening in the audience is to really sense the refinement of the interpretation and of your technique and your phrasing. And I was doing a little bit of stalking during rehearsal, watching it as a amateur now violinist myself, and watching how even in the theme you are, I don't know if it's instinctive or intentional, but you really choose the length of your notes and your articulation. It seems like you make either an intentional or subconscious decision about every note you play. So I have to ask you, is it intentional or subconscious?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I still feel, this is a piece that I've played a lot. I've had the fortune of playing it a lot. So every time I revisit it, I feel like I'm able to see new things in it and discover new possibilities. And it is one of those pieces where, it's not such a long work. And so it's sort of, we're grateful that it's one of those pieces where you can almost think about the purpose of every single note, which is a gift as a performer, but of course also is something that can't be the ultimate goal, because I think then you lose the sense of spontaneity. But
true.
Definitely it is a piece that I've pondered a lot, and I still am looking forward to pondering it today and tomorrow and during the concert and after.
Oh, wonderful. No, it's really fun. I mean, I've conducted the piece several times. I also love it. And so when I heard you play it, and actually even before I heard your 3 recordings, and everyone was different, but they were very imaginative and expressive and organic, and you were so easy to follow, I have to say. Having a lot of fun with that. Well, your friend, which I suppose you don't have a nickname for, I'm sorry, but he seems like, he or she seems like they want to come out and play for us a little bit. So
sure, I'd love to play just a short selection of just a piece for solo cello by Johann Sebastian Bach, and this is the Sarabande from the first suite for solo cello.
Lovely, thank you. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
And I understand if people want to hear you play the complete Bach suites, they can come see you in...
I'll be playing them twice later in the year, once in Arcata, California, and then also in Worcester, Massachusetts. Yeah.
Well, nice. We do have patrons who have gone to fly out to see guest artists, so you might be surprised somebody will come knocking at your doors. But I saw you in Billings, Montana. So as a teacher, you have just started a few weeks ago, right, at Juilliard Conservatory.
That's right.
So, what do you impart to your students?
Oh, well, yeah, it's a huge honor for me to be now teaching and working with the next generation of cellists. Teaching a string instrument is such an interesting thing because it's kind of like a craft, like, you know, shoemaking or carpentry or something, where the real hands-on experience and also the one-on-one, the passage of knowledge is really interesting. And of course, it's very individual. It depends on what the student wants and what the student needs and what their past as a musician brings to their future. But in general, if I had to describe my approach to teaching, it's just that I like to emphasize the importance of joy and the importance of intention, that whenever we play something in music, there's a reason that we're doing it, and that the way we do it has a generosity to it.
So I'm going to put you on the spot since you've got your cello here. Just for those in the audience and listening also, give us an idea of something without intention and then put intention into it.
Oh, gosh.
You can do that this early in the morning.
Oh, I can try. Maybe I could take a passage from the Rococo Variations, which we're going to play.
Perfect.
I'm trying to think of something interesting. So like, for example, at the end of the cadenza, which happens sort of maybe 2/3 of the way through the piece, it's a very dramatic cadenza where the cello plays alone for about a minute. And at the very end, the cadenza seems to be winding down. And I feel like this moment is a very important moment because it sets up the mood for the next variation, which is the 6th variation. And it's the only variation that's in a minor key. So it's sort of more somber and sad. And just to give an example, that final moment before the cello ends the cadenza, the cello plays this passage with a... Sorry, my mic just fell. Let me reattach this.
Perfect.
So yeah, as I was saying, this there's this kind of motif which lasts for a little while, and you know, if one were to play it without intention, one could imagine just sort of going through the notes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're trying to really set up this sense of perhaps fear or expectation, then you can do subtle things with the timing and with the dynamics, the vibrato and the sound, to sort of create a sense of questioning and expectation, and then the next variation starts. So it's subtle things like that. I hope that is a clear enough demonstration.
Perfect. No, very clear. Absolutely perfect. Actually, that brings up something that I want our audience members to, if not to make you too self-conscious here, but to make a note that really impresses me about your playing, but your besides the finesse that you play with, but your very refined sense of rubato, and rubato being the Italian word to steal. Steal time, but in truth, a good rubato steals and gives back, right? And I know you know this because I've heard you play. And oftentimes you'll hear, and we work on this in the orchestra as well, something will slow down, you sense a rubato, and you'll slow down, but you never really give back. And I notice, listening at the ends of your phrases, you know, and everyone is a little bit different. Every time is a little bit different, which is fun for me, you know, but there's this sense of almost a large elastic band that flows, you know, it doesn't snap, but, you know, and so sometimes you'll have you'll have a retard and then just a little bit of accelerando going into the downbeat. And I think that's something that makes the piece very interesting and less predictable, because every approach to the end of the phrase, if you think of a phrase as, a series of measures, or, going into the repeat or something like that, it's always a little bit different.
Right.
And if the audiences, if they listen for it, they'll go, oh, wow, that's really cool. So, and for the musicians in the audience, of which there'll be many, I'm sure, definitely listen to the rubato and think about, if you're a high school student and you're doing, a solo and ensemble competition, think about, when you have your retards, if you really thought about, do you want to slow down all the way, or do you want to slow down, then maybe speed it like a little arc like that.
Right.
Something a little bit different. So.
Right.
Well, it's going to be so much fun.
Yes,
We're
I'm
having a
really
great
looking
time
forward
already, and so what's next for you? You leave at 6 in the morning, which is pretty typical for our guest artists, but you go on to a very, very, very busy schedule.
Yeah, in the next couple weeks, I'll be playing in California, in Arcata with the Bach Suites, as I mentioned, and then I have a recital in New York City where I live, and then in a couple weeks I'll be performing in Poland for the first time. So that will
How
be
exciting!
That's a very big honor for me, and yeah. But I have to say, being here in Billings, this is the first concert of my season, and I just couldn't be more thrilled with how passionate and engaged the orchestra is, and of course the pleasure of working with you on this wonderful piece. So
thank you.
I'm really looking forward to sharing this with everyone.
Well, I appreciate that. I would say, I'm proud to say that most guest artists who come here, they do feel that way. We take our guest artists very, very seriously. As you know, we require 3 rehearsals, which is probably a little unusual.
It is, but it's a gift, actually. And I always think that the rehearsals, you learn so much, and me having played this piece, the amount that I have, I still learn an incredible amount with every rehearsal. And so,
well, you do. And not only that, if you really want to have that bond, that relationship with the orchestra, not just the conductor, but the orchestra as well, where they're really responding to you almost directly, you've got to have that time. And I actually learned that from one of my mentors, Leon Fleischer. And I had the opportunity to perform with him just once. And this was years ago with the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra, but his stipulation, which was unheard of, is he had to have 3 rehearsals.
Wow.
I was like, wow, what a concept. So,
Right.
And it was great. So just watching his aesthetic and how, there's different layers in which you can perform a piece. And sometimes I'm sure, well, when you do your competitions, of which you've won many, you probably might have had 1 rehearsal.
Right.
And you do that too. You can make that work. I mean, I did a concert with Conrad Tao, you probably know, and his flight was canceled, and he ended up making it in, I think, 20 minutes at the end of the rehearsal for the Ravel left-hand piano concerto, and it was smash and grab, and it was a different kind of fun,
Right.
And we did it, but this is much better.
Right.
So I think this really allows us to dig in. So, well, I can't emphasize what a pleasure it is to finally meet you, to hear you live after listening to you for many years on YouTube, and I think that we're going to have absolutely dynamite time tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Well, once again, I'm Ann Harrigan. This is Zlatomir Fung, and we're here with the Billings Symphony's Big Sky Sounds. Thank you for tuning in.